You're a burden now, Mom. My son said it standing in my living room, still in his work shirt, his tie shoved into his pocket. His phone buzzed on the coffee table, lighting up with messages he didn't check. The words landed between us like a stone dropped in a quiet pond. No taking them back, only the ripples. Beside him, Laura sat in my favorite armchair, arms folded, lips pressed tight. She didn't say the words out loud, but they were sitting there on her face. You're a burden now, Mom. He flinched the second it came out, like he'd slammed a door on his own fingers. I didn't mean, he started. But the sentence was already in the room with us, heavy as a piece of furniture you can't move. My name is Lydia. I'm 72 years old, and this is the story of how one word almost turned me into a problem to be managed, and how what came after forced me to make the biggest choice of my life. It had started, at least on paper, as a conversation about my fall on the back steps. The hospital had sent me home a few weeks earlier with a bandaged wrist and a bag of new pills. The doctor told Michael I should have more supervision at home. I told them I was fine. At 72, you don't want your life turned into a chart. That afternoon, they came over to talk. Michael stood by the couch. Laura chose the armchair by the window. I sat on the edge of my own sofa like a guest in a house I'd paid off one grocery list at a time. Mom, he said, this house, the stairs, the yard, driving, cooking, it's too much. For you. And honestly, for us. For you? I asked quietly. He rubbed his eyes. We're stretched thin. Work, Noah's school, Laura's shifts. Every week there's a new appointment, a new prescription, a new form to sign. It feels like we're carrying everything. He took a breath he shouldn't have taken. You're a burden now, Mom. The clock ticked 3 times before anyone moved. Outside, a car door slammed. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. Life going on, as if nothing important had just broken. I looked at my hands. The veins stood up a bit, the knuckles swollen with arthritis. These hands had packed his lunches, mended his jeans, held him through fevers. Now they lay in my lap, suddenly wrong, suddenly too much. Laura reached for his arm. Michael. He shook his head, eyes wide. I'm sorry, he said to me. I didn't mean it like that. I just mean, it's hard. We should look at options. Selling the house. Maybe you move in with us. Or one of those places with staff, call buttons, you know. I've lived here nearly 40 years, I said. Every board in this floor knows my step. The stairs creak before they give. He gave a tired smile that never reached his eyes. We'll talk more. I'll call tomorrow, okay? When the door closed behind them, the house settled around me. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint traffic 3 streets over, the ticking clock, my life, reduced to the noises left when everyone had gone. I went into the kitchen and rinsed his coffee mug, though it was already clean. My wrist ached, but my chest ached more. Burden. I didn't know it then, but that word was the beginning of the biggest decision I would ever make about my own life. And if you've ever felt like a burden in your own family, stay with me, you need to hear what came next. That night I slept in pieces. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Michael at 12, bursting through the back door after school, dropping his backpack on the floor. Mom, what's for dinner? Same boy, same eyes, now telling me I was something heavy he had to carry. Toward dawn, I gave up on sleep. I turned on the lamp and pulled the old photo album from my nightstand. The plastic pages crackled softly. Here was Michael at 6, front teeth missing, holding a crooked clay pot. Here was Sarah, his older sister, braiding his hair while he giggled. There was our little house when the paint was still new, my husband standing in front of it, proud and tired. I closed the album and stared at the ceiling. When the sun finally pushed through the curtains, I went to the kitchen, made myself tea, and took out a pad of paper. On top, I wrote, what I have. The house. A small savings account. Pension. Old car. On the next page, I wrote, who I am. Mother. Grandmother. Widow. Choir singer. Good cook. Woman who worked 2 jobs when my husband was sick. Woman who stayed awake all night when her children did. Somewhere along the way, in my son's mind, the first list had swallowed the second. Maybe I'd helped that happen, always saying I don't want to be a bother, always apologizing for needing a ride. The next week, I took the bus to the bank. The teller was young, with bright red lipstick and kind eyes. She called me Mrs. Parker and didn't look impatient when I asked her to explain things twice. A financial advisor brought me into a small office and walked me through every account, every paper. You're not rich, he said, but you have more flexibility than you think. You have choices. Choices. The word landed softly but stayed. On Sunday, I went back to church. After the service, my friend Margaret cornered me in the hallway. How's the wrist? She asked. Still attached, I said. Can't complain. You can, she said. To me, at least. You look, not just tired. Worn. So in the narrow hallway that smelled of coffee and old hymnals, I told her about Michael's visit. About the word. She listened without interrupting, her hands folded over her purse. Kids these days are squeezed from both sides, she said finally. Their children pulling one way, their parents the other. It doesn't excuse unkindness. But it explains some of the blindness. I don't want to make his life harder, I said. I also don't want to disappear while I'm still breathing. She nodded slowly. Maybe the question isn't how to make his life easier, she said. Maybe the question is, what kind of life do you want for yourself now? I hadn't asked myself that in a long time. A few days later, Michael came by again. He stood in the same spot in the living room, twisting his car keys. Mom, I'm so sorry, he said before he even sat down. I've been sick thinking about what I said. I was exhausted. We're having cutbacks at work, Laura's sister is staying with us, Noah's got trouble in school. I just exploded. I don't think you're a burden. You felt overwhelmed, I said. And I was one more thing on the list. It's not like that, he protested, then sighed. Maybe it is. I just don't want something to happen to you when you're alone. I'd never forgive myself. I know, I said. Please think about the options, he went on. Selling the house, moving somewhere with help, or with us for a while. It would be simpler. I looked at my son, the worry lines, the gray at his temples that hadn't been there 5 years ago. I will think, I said. But I'll choose, Michael. Not just drift into whatever is easiest for everyone else. That night, I walked through my house in my slippers. I ran my hand along the banister my husband had sanded. I opened the door to Michael's old room, now my sewing room, and remembered stepping on Lego pieces years ago. I stood in the doorway of the kitchen, smelling phantom dinners cooked long ago. I loved this house. But lately, it had become a measuring stick for my usefulness. Every uneven step, every loose tile was one more reason to be worried about me. Suddenly, I saw something clearly. I could love this house and still let it go. I could love my son and still stop living like my whole purpose was to be convenient for him. The next morning, I called the lawyer whose card had been tucked in my drawer since my husband died. In his small office, he listened as I explained, widowed, 2 grown children, modest house, some savings, son under pressure, word burden stuck like a thorn in my ribs. What do you want? He asked. I want my son to stop feeling like he's dragging me behind him, I said. I want to stop apologizing for existing. I want to decide what to do with what I built. We talked about deeds and transfers, about gifting property within my lifetime instead of after. The language was cold. The feeling underneath was warm. Over the next few weeks, I did quiet, serious things. I visited a senior apartment community across town. Not a nursing home, small apartments, each with its own kitchen and balcony, a garden, a shuttle to the grocery store. The hallways were painted cheerful colors, not hospital beige. On the day I toured, a group of residents sat in the lounge arguing about a book. People here still live their lives, the manager told me. We just handle the heavy stuff in the background. I filled out an application. I cleaned out closets at home. I donated clothes I no longer wore. I gave Noah his grandfather's chess set. I mailed Emma, my granddaughter from Sarah, the little porcelain box she'd loved. Every bag that left the house made the rooms echo a little more. The emptiness scared me and freed me at the same time. Finally, I sat at the kitchen table again, this time with the lawyer beside me. The deed to the house lay between us. With this, he said, pointing to the line where my pen would go, you transfer the house to your son now. It will be his, free and clear. Are you sure? My hand shook a little as I signed. I'm sure, I said. My whole married life and widowhood had been poured into that building. The mortgage paid, the repairs done, the garden tended. Now I was handing it over. But I was also laying something down. I packed my things into a few boxes and one suitcase. The movers took the rest to be sold or given away. On my last morning in the house, I wiped the counters, straightened the curtains, and placed the keys on the kitchen table. Next to them, I left an envelope with Michael's name. Inside, I wrote, My dear son, you once called me a burden. I know you were tired, but I heard the weight in your voice. This house is my final gift to you, not as a chain but as something you can use freely. I am choosing to live somewhere that doesn't make you responsible for every creak in my floorboards. If you want to see me, you will be visiting me, not rescuing me. I hope this lifts something off your shoulders. It has lifted something off mine. Love, Mom. Then I took my suitcase and walked out, closing the door behind me with a soft click. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't waiting to see if someone would come back in. My new apartment was smaller, but the sunlight was generous. I had a little balcony that overlooked the community garden. On my first morning there, I carried my coffee outside and watched two women argue about where to plant tomatoes. They laughed as they talked, their voices rising and falling like birdsong. No one here knew me as Michael's mother. I was just Lydia, in 3B. I joined a weekly movie night. I went to the knitting circle and made something lopsided and warm. I walked in the mornings with a woman named Ruth who told me about her dog and her 3 ex-husbands. For a while, I waited for Michael's call with a tightness in my chest. It came 2 days later. Mom, he said, his voice rough. I went to the house. It's empty. Where are you? At home, I said. At home where? He asked. At my new place, I answered. I left you a letter. I read it, he said. Twice. You gave me the house. You moved without telling me. Why would you do that? Because I needed to do something for both of us, I said. You were carrying me like another obligation. I was living like I was waiting to be carried. This way, you have the house. I have a life that doesn't depend on your schedule. I never wanted you to feel you had to leave, he whispered. I didn't leave you, I said. I left a version of myself I didn't recognize. There was a long pause. I don't deserve that house, he said. You probably don't, I answered gently. But I also didn't deserve to feel like a problem just for being alive. So we're both learning. He let out a breath that sounded like something heavy setting down. Can I come visit?" he asked. "Not to check on you. Just to see where you are." "I'll put coffee on," I said. When he arrived a few days later, he looked around my little apartment slowly. His eyes lingered on the plant by the window, the framed photo of him and Sarah as children on the shelf, the knitted blanket folded over the back of the chair. "This feels like you," he said. "It is," I replied. He sat at my small round table, his big hands wrapped around the mug. "I keep thinking about that word," he said. "Burden." I hate that I said it. But I also know, if I'm honest, that I felt it. I was so scared of failing everyone that I turned you into something to manage instead of someone to love. "We all do that," I said. "We stack people into lists when we're tired. Parents, children, bosses, bills. It doesn't make you a monster. It makes you human. But humans can change how they carry things." He looked at me, eyes wet. "Can you forgive me?" he asked. "I already did," I said. "The day I signed the deed." Forgiveness was part of the gift. After that, he came by when he could. Sometimes he brought Noah, who loved the garden and the elevator buttons. We played chess with the set I'd given him. We sat on the balcony and watched the sunset press gold on the rooftops. Were there still busy weeks when he didn't call? Of course. Life doesn't stop throwing stones at people just because they've learned a lesson. But when he did call, it wasn't with that heavy sigh I'd grown used to. It was with something lighter. "Hey, Mom. Got time for a visit?" I was no longer an item on his emergency list. I was a person he chose to see. Sometimes, in the late evenings, loneliness still came and sat with me in the quiet. I made us a cup of tea and we looked out at the garden together. It didn't scare me as much anymore. It was just another visitor, not the whole story. I think about other women my age, sitting in houses that don't feel like theirs anymore, being reminded, in big ways and small, that they are too much. If that's you, hear this from me: you are not a burden. You may be tired. You may need help. But you are not a problem to solve. You are a life that still matters. My final gift to my son was an empty house. My final gift to myself was the decision to live the rest of my years as a woman, not a weight. And if my story has found you tonight, I hope it sits beside you like a quiet friend and reminds you, it is never too late to choose dignity.